and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, and I am joined today by a very special guest, Rashab from Dawindycity Productions. Many of you know him, big hype man, big hype video account. We love him on Twitter. We've been trying to get this episode going for a while, so we are very excited to have him on very shortly. But today, we will be hitting on the current situation of Eddie Goldman in the Chicago Bears, why he isn't coming to training camp, do we think he'll be coming back, and what impact this has on the defense, whether he does play or not. Before we begin, we would like to thank our sponsor, Higher Level Camps. Higher Level Camps is the longest running boys and girls AAU basketball program in Wisconsin. Higher Level Camps was established in 1995 by their founder and retired WNBA player, Cheryl Moore. 27 years and counting. For more information, visit www.higherlevelcamps.com and say Just Another Year sent you. We love Cheryl, though she is a Packers fan. And before we begin, the Justin Fields jersey that I ordered from DHgate is in. Quick review on it. If you get a size medium and you think you're a medium, it's literally an XL. So get the smallest size possible. It's still going to be big on you. But listen, if you're wearing this for a darty, if you're wearing this in cold weather when you're at Soldier Field, or you're just putting a hoodie on under it, it's going to fit me perfectly. So just make sure you go out for that. But I will also have the link in my bio. More to come on that. But now, entering the Eddie Goldman episode, me and Rashab from Dawindycity Productions. All right, and in this episode of Just Another Year Chicago, like said before, we have Rashab from Dawindycity Productions. Rashab, thank you very much for joining us today. So before we begin, tell us a little bit about Dawindycity Productions.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. So I'm sure a lot of you guys already have watched my channel, watched some of my videos, but pretty much I just do Bears hype videos. I do analysis videos, just talking about the Bears in general. I started this channel in 2018, right before the Bears' really good season happened, obviously, and it all kind of just blew off from there. So yeah, I'm just making weekly content, talking about Bears news, making videos, like I said, highlight videos, stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
And you do more than just the Bears. I know that you like Zach LaVine a lot. I know that you like, I've noticed you've started talking about the Cubs-White Sox rivalry a little bit more. But like I think that I remember you posted a Bulls video a couple months ago, and it was incredible. So I definitely think that everyone should go check out all the hype videos, especially like if you just want to, get pumped up before you go work out or go do something. Or even before a game, like I think they're just awesome videos overall. But another really hot topic to talk about right now amongst Bears fans, and I know you and I, the whole point of this episode is Eddie Goldman. Like, where exactly does he stand with the team? Is he coming back to the team? Bears Twitter's been freaking out about it. So, kind of like easing into the conversation, how do you feel right now about the Eddie Goldman situation?
Yeah, well, obviously not good. I talked about this also on another podcast I was on a couple days ago, but the fact that, okay, so this guy, he obviously didn't play last year for us. He missed the entire season due to COVID, which that's totally fine. He had, I think, breathing problems or something like that. So that's your own health problem. So I totally get that. But then to not show up for OTAs where you already haven't played in over a year, and some people are speculating he's maybe not even in shape right now. So it's obviously, not a good situation because he needs to be in shape. He needs to be here for training camp. And I don't even know if he's going to do that now. Like, training camp is in a month. Who knows if he's even in shape, if he's going to show up. And we're also paying him, I think, what is it, like $9 or $10 million per year, right? Like, he's one of the higher paid nose tackles in the NFL because he played at a high level in 2018, 2019, obviously, so he did deserve it. But if he's not going to be ready to play this year, I don't know, man. That's definitely not a good situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. We are paying the guy a lot of money. He has $20 million left total on his contract. This year is the highest paid year out of the entire contract because he's 27 years old. He's in his prime, and like you said, we're not even sure if he's in condition to play. And a lot of people have been speculating, like he's been talking to Danny Trevathan. He's been going back and forth with them, via text message. And a lot of people think that he's probably like running on the treadmill for like 2 hours a day, just trying to shred as much fat off his body as possible because no one's seen him. He's very off the radar. I don't think he's actually in Illinois as we speak. I think he's still in his private home. I believe it's in Florida. I know it's an undisclosed location, but I don't feel very good about it. Just to kind of go about it, just to sum it up before we jump into everything, it makes me super nervous because the Bears always have this thing where they have the best team possible on the field, and then they're one position away from being the dominant team that they are. And right now, the quarterback position is not the problem for the Chicago Bears. It's not. Eddie Goldman being out is such a big loss because then, I mean, that front four of Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, and then Goldman, that's just stupid good. So I'm with you. I'm very nervous about what's going to happen with him. And a lot of people do think that his career could be over, like he's lost his love for the game. But, it's just crazy to think. So let's kind of jump into topic one. Eddie Goldman has not reported in minicamp at all. It was started last week. Most veterans showed up. And like you were saying, is that he didn't even show up to OTAs, which were totally optional. But there was no defensive presence besides really Roquan Smith from last year's defense that showed up. And you would think Eddie Goldman, a guy that hasn't played in a while, would have showed up. So all players required to attend starting last week haven't been there. That's huge. That is a very big problem. And Eddie Goldman is the biggest name that has stuck out of camp so far. And like we said, he's unsure of his future. He's owed $20 million left on his contract. And that's not a small chunk of change. And Danny Trevathan, the Chicago Bears veteran linebacker who has been here through the thick and thin, and Goldman was kind of that second guy that came because I believe we signed Trevathan in 2016, right? Kind of the bad years.
Yeah.
2015. You're right.
Whatever. Yeah. Close enough.
They were both really bad that year. So Trevathan was kind of the rebuilding of the Chicago Bears defense. And then Goldman was drafted in 2016 in the second round at the 39th pick. But so they have that bond of sticking together. And then Trevathan's telling reporters, hey, he's ready to go. But why isn't he showing up? So why do you think he's holding out at this exact moment?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. You're talking about Eddie Goldman right now, right?
Yeah. Why is Eddie Goldman not showing up?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, like I talked about earlier, I mean, it might just be that he's not in shape to play because, I mean, he was off for a year and not playing football for a year. I mean, you would want to assume that he's in the gym working out on the treadmill every single day, lifting weights and all, but, I mean, that's not what some people do, right? Like, they get a little bit lazy, they get a little bit, they don't have the coaches there to motivate them, which, I mean, I would hope the Bears send somebody to, kind of keep track of him, but then again, it was a COVID year where you couldn't even have real contact with most people in the world. So he might have just been at home kind of chilling. Now, I don't want to say that for sure because that's just me speculating. He could be totally fine to play. Maybe he just had some personal issues or something like that. But also, if you look at what Matt Nagy said, did you hear what Matt Nagy said, by the way, in his post-game press or post-camp press conference? He was very kind of mad at what Eddie Goldman did, right? He was kind of talking in an annoyed tone. He was like, why did this guy not show up? I mean, he didn't really give a full explanation. So based on what Matt Nagy said, and I feel like Matt Nagy, most of the time, he tries to defend his players, at least to some extent. Early on with Mitch Trubisky, he used to try to defend Mitch as much as possible. He used to try to defend his other players. But it just seems like right now with Goldman, he is not happy at all with him. And when your head coach is not happy with you, when your teammates are kind of also speculating where you are, it's not a good sign. But like you said, obviously, Danny Trevathan saying that he's going to be ready to play, that's kind of a good sign because Danny Trevathan has been the leader of this defense for 3 or 4 plus years. So if Trevathan thinks everything is fine, then hopefully everything is. But right now, you just never know. But I do have to say though, even if Goldman does not show up, we saw last year so many people on the interior D line did step up on certain occasions, right? You saw Bilal Nichols play nose tackle for the first time ever. He was pretty good in certain games. You saw Mario Edwards pretty much come out of nowhere, and then we signed him to 2 or 3 year deal again. So he was pretty nice last year. We also had a couple other signings this year. So I think we can be fine for the most part if Goldman does decide not to play, but obviously he is one of the better nose tackles in the NFL. So if he does, get in our starting lineup, that would make it even better.
Yeah, I think you raise a lot of really good points there. Is that it's not if we lose Eddie Goldman, yes, it's not the end of the world. Nichols stepped up big time last year. Edwards Jr. stepped up big times last year. But we did lose Roberts Harris, right? That was a big loss. Even though he was injured most of the season, that's still a very big loss for the Chicago Bears depth-wise. But Goldman he's been here for the really rough years of this defense and kind of was that building block getting it back. And when him and Akeem Hicks are together, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go into Eddie Goldman as a person in a second, but that's over 650 pounds of bear going at you. That they're not men, they are bears when they walk onto the field. So I'm really happy you brought that up because I'm just gonna jump into quickly a little bit for the viewers about Eddie Goldman as a whole to kind of like tell his backstory and who he is, and then I got a couple questions for you. So Eddie Goldman is a gigantic man. He is 6'3", 318 pounds, and according to before we've even seen him recently, he wasn't chunk. He was strength. Like he was, slim thick with two C's. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a big, thick dude. And he was a very valued prospect back from college. He's from Florida State. He was chosen at the second pick, the 39th overall. And guess who was drafted this year at the 39th overall? Tevin Jenkins. So the Bears, if history repeats itself at that exact pick, the Bears could have a really good left tackle, and they also have one of the best nose tackles in the NFL. He's still only 27 years old, and he's a great compliment, kind of like I was saying earlier to Hakeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, and Robert Quinn, who needs to get his groove back. So just kind of to you, as how important and as a diehard Bears fan is Goldman to you being on that field?
I mean, yeah, it's very important. Like we saw the last time he had a fully healthy season in 2019, our run defense was still pretty good that year. I would say in 2020 is when our run defense did kind of nosedive. And that's also because Akeem Hicks was unhealthy a good portion of that season. And we had like a whole bunch of other issues. But 2018, 2019, those are some of the best run defenses I've ever seen with the Bears. That all starts with, like you said, Eddie Goldman in the middle of that defense. I mean, he's like over 300 pounds of pure strength, pure muscle. And when you have that guy pushing the pocket for you, it makes life very difficult for opposing quarterbacks. Like we even saw in 2018 with, you remember Jared Goff, that game in Soldier Field against the Bears? I mean, Eddie Goldman had his way against that offensive line, and it really helped our entire team. So I would say he's still very, very important.
Yeah, I think that was a big missing piece for the Bears this year as well. And that's kind of like, the Bears are always seem to be one piece away. It's been quarterback forever. Now it's not. And now a position that the Bears aren't used to struggling with is the defensive tackle position. And it's not even that much of an issue. It's just being that dominant against other teams. So I'm going to give you a follow-up. Would you rather have Goldman or Hicks on the field?
I mean, I would definitely say Hicks there just because he's also like a vocal leader of that entire defense. We saw like obviously when he left last year also, our defense didn't really have many vocal leaders on that team, right? Because Khalil Mack, even though he's probably the most talented guy on the field, he's not like that vocal heart of the defense like Akeem Hicks is, right? Like he's pumping everybody up, he's like pumping the crowd up too, and he like thrives off that energy. So I would say I would still have Akeem Hicks rather here just from a morale standpoint, and I think he's also very valuable on the field as well. I mean, he's still at least an above average defensive tackle or defensive end in this league. So I would definitely say Hicks.
Yeah, I was with you, and I'm gonna actually disagree. I would rather have Goldman, and I know that's gonna have a lot of people going, how? Like I love Akeem Hicks, like he is my guy, but over the last 2 years, ever since that elbow injury against the Raiders, he's been becoming very injury prone. And, he's on the wrong side of 30, though defensive linemen, I mean, usually they can either last a super long time or they don't. And Hicks has lasted a very long time in this league. There's no doubt about it. But, in regards to age, regards to the future and money, I would rather have Goldman out there. But I'm not saying that they're going to release Hicks and keep Goldman. That's not going to happen. They're both on the roster. They're both paying them. But Goldman is just the younger, more durable athlete before we find out if he got out of shape or not in the offseason. So that is based off of the information that we know now. If I were to see a picture of Eddie Goldman, 6'3", 350, and he didn't put on an ounce of muscle, then yes, I am going to go with Akeem Hicks as well.
Right.
But it's crazy. It's crazy. So
what do you think about his like leadership he provides though? Because I feel like without Akeem Hicks, like who's even the leader of this defense? I would say maybe Roquan Smith. I mean, he's getting up there in talent and all that, but like who do you think would take over as a leader?
I think Roquan Smith, and yes, exactly, Roquan Smith. I think Roquan Smith being the only veteran showing up to OTAs and being probably the best veteran besides Khalil Mack on that team. Danny Trevathan is not the player he once was. Eddie Jackson needs to prove himself again. Kyle Fuller would have been if he was there. Khalil Mack is Khalil Mack. But he's a vocal leader, like you said, and that's what really ticks me off about Khalil Mack is that you are an NFL superstar. You are the face of the franchise right now. Justin Fields is knocking on the door as we speak, and he hasn't even taken a snap. And the fact that you aren't getting mad at other players over the last 3 years has really kind of grinded me the wrong way because you had Urlacher, you had Briggs, you had Tillman, you had Brett Urban talking more than Khalil Mack. Yeah. And the one thing actually that I really liked hearing about Khalil Mack recently is that his first day back, he was already jawing at guys, go after the ball, do this, do that. So I think he's understanding what Bears fans and Bears media has been kind of ripping on him for. So there's definitely, I am definitely with you there. But it sounds like Roquan's your leader. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I would say so as of now. He's probably the most talented, besides Khalil Mack, obviously. He's probably the most talented guy on this defense. And he also, he's only like 24 years old right now, right? So he's still going to be on this team for like a long, long time. So I would definitely say Roquan, especially because he's a middle linebacker too.
Absolutely. I like Roquan Smith a lot. I think he's been one of the steals of the last couple of years draft-wise. Hopefully, I mean, King Pace just keeps doing what he's doing. And I know that a lot of people don't like Ryan Pace at all, but if you look at his track record and you looked at what he was given when he first came to the Chicago Bears, he had some bad luck in the beginning, but he is a good GM. I don't care what people say. I know that I see you posting about King Pace.
Oh yeah, all the time, man. I've been one of the few guys defending him on Twitter for the past year plus. I mean, I really feel like the only thing he did wrong in not having a Super Bowl roster, the only position he missed out on was quarterback, picking Mitch over Watson and Mahomes. That was the only reason we don't have a Super Bowl right now. Otherwise, the entire team was so good.
And Cody Parkey, but we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about Cody Parkey.
That's true.
So last question to kind of end today's podcast is: do you think that Eddie Goldman will play this year?
That's a tough question. Based on the information we have right now, I probably wouldn't bet money on it just because it's just the way that Nagy talked, it really rubbed me the wrong way. He actually, it felt like he thought there was a chance that Eddie Goldman is not going to play at all this year. In which case, I mean, that would obviously be very bad. So I don't know, man. I think there is a good chance he does show up, but if I had to bet money on it, I probably wouldn't just because of how he missed mandatory OTAs, how his coach is also kind of concerned now, how his teammates don't really know what's happening. So I don't know, man. And I also don't know what we would do. If he retired, I guess we would get that money back. So we would have more money to spend on a different position, but that wouldn't be a good situation, obviously.
I know. I was leaning towards your way. I'm at a 51-49 right now. And I'm going with he is going to come back this year. And here's my explanation why. He's talking to Trevathan. He probably is talking to other teammates as well. And clearly he's been talking to Matt Nagy. That's why Matt Nagy could be annoyed. And his explanation could be all over the wall. But his teammates could also be saying, hey, this is the last year this defense is going to be this dominant. A lot of contracts are expiring coming up. A lot of guys might get traded, and the defense is getting older. Even though our secondary is very young, our middle linebacker position is fine with Roquan. We have Nichols and Goldman, but Robert Quinn is no spring chicken. Khalil Mack is definitely not a spring chicken. I mean, he's hurt every year now, and Hicks is probably not going to be on the roster after this year. So I think that what's going to happen, and that's totally my opinion, but I hope that this defense continues to strive as long as possible. But I think that he is going to be okay, if I can get in shape, or if he is in shape, he'll be hopefully back at minicamp in the next week or two.
Yeah, man, I hope you're right. I mean, training camp starts, I think, in a month or so. So, yeah, I guess we'll see you then.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we're gonna close today's episode on that note. We are currently in conversations with local bars around Hallis Hall and having a Just Another Year and potentially Dawindycity Productions event. So stay tuned for that. Literally right before this call, I brought it up with Rashad. He was like, "Yeah, sure, I'm in." So stay tuned for that. And all the information will be coming up in this upcoming episode. But Rashad, thank you so much for joining today's episode. It was a really great time. Great talking to you as always. We've been trying to get this going for probably the last 3 months.
For sure, man. Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. But thanks for having me on. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, his handle will be below him in this video. His profile will also be linked in the description. But please stay tuned for the next episode of Just Enough.